Hello and welcome back to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about the recently released books. Welcome back again. This is Ray Walters. Today's guest invites us to look beyond symptom management and towards something deeper, a life of purpose, freedom, and wholeness. Drawing from years of medical practice and personal faith, he brings a bold yet compassionate perspective on the modern health crisis, one that acknowledges the spiritual, emotional, and physical toll of living in a distracted and disoriented world. It's a privilege to welcome our guest. Please welcome the author of Live Free or Diet, Dr. Kurt Bravata. Hi, Dr. Kurt Bravata. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Ray. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
It's a pleasure to have you today and talk about your book. Congratulations in getting it published. Live
Thank you.
Free or Diet. Dr. Bravata, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the first question. Um, let's start at the beginning. What personal experiences or insights led you to write Live Free or Diet?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the suburbs of New York City, a little
Mm,
in Long Island. And when I was about 5 years old, my parents felt led of the Lord to get into ministry, and they moved to a rural community in upstate New York. And it was a small farm that they purchased, and their vision was to set up a missionary training center, which is what they did. And so I grew up in this, very kind of free, very rural environment, surrounded by beautiful green mountains, the blue sky, and just this sense of kind of how God had intended for creation to be. Wasn't a very congested area. Our closest neighbors were about like a half mile away. And
mm,
I always just felt very in touch with um, communing with God and that kind of very naturalistic way of living. We weren't dependent on our farm. My mom was a nurse. My dad worked in business, but they did farming and they had animals, and we learned how to live off the land, and we learned how to live in a very natural way, connected with God's beautiful nature. And as I grew up, went to medical school, experienced the world, and kind of became inundated with all the stressors of life and the
mm.
stressors of that whole challenging educational experience, and then working as a family physician and
Right.
eventually an addiction recovery specialist. I just felt very much like there's so much of these external stressors that are very restrictive in our lives and also very unhealthy, and they promote unhealthy lifestyles. And
Mm.
we need to get back to that kind of natural way of living, that holistic way of living, and really connecting with God on a body, mind, spirit level, learning from Him how to take care of ourselves, how to take care of our bodies, how to take care of our minds, and how to support our spiritual development.
Right. Early in the book, you describe it not as a traditional diet plan, but more of a buffet of life-giving ideas. What did you want readers to take away from that approach?
Yeah, so I've read a number of self-help books and diet books, nutritional books, books on healthy lifestyles and fitness, and also, books on spiritual development. And one of the things that I found is so many of these books are very kind of prescriptive in their approach,
Mm,
and and as a physician, that's a very natural instinct for me to be very prescriptive. But I really felt like I wanted to really just put everything that was in my heart, everything that was in my mind, everything that God had been giving me that I'd written in journals over the years, things that I'd kind of just scribbled down, and thought, well, I'm going to get back to that when I write a book. And
mm,
I wanted to share those things in a way that I'm really not able to do in that typical 15-minute visit with a patient, but to
Okay.
just put it out there so that people can glean what is most useful to them. And
All
there are
right.
areas where I'm a little more specific and a little bit more prescriptive, but I really wanted people to feel comfortable that this book wasn't just saying there's one way uh, to do things, but what is most fitting for your lifestyle and for your goals.
Wow. Sounds good. It- Now, in your introduction, you share a lighthearted story about training your dogs, but it carries a deeper lesson. Can you talk a bit about how that story frames the message of freedom and discipline?
Yeah, so you're talking about that love and leashes story, and so that story was meant to really kind of create a picture of God's relationship with us, and
Mm,
also our relationship as parents with children, and how we do want to give some freedom to our children as they're developing, just as God wants to give to us to allow us to be free, sentient individuals. But there's
mhm,
also a certain amount of restriction that helps us stay within the confines of a healthy, safe lifestyle so that we don't get into trouble.
mm. All right. You um you already mentioned this moments back about body, mind, and spirit. You invite readers on that journey. Why do you
Mhm.
believe a holistic view of health is essential, especially in today's world?
So in today's world, I feel like we are very body mind centric, and we've kind of gotten away from the spiritual
True.
connectivity that's so important in a healthy lifestyle. And I believe that we are spirits first. We have souls, and we live in a physical body that
Yes.
enables us to interact in the world. And I think it's so important for people to understand that and to realize that a healthy spirit can lead to a healthy body and a healthy mind.
That's awesome. So spirit first, and then body and mind. Um,
Yes.
a little glimpse on that, Dr. Bravata. I just wanted to um, dive a little deeper when we talk about the spirit aspect of the holistic view of health. What exactly are we looking at?
Yeah. So, I believe that we've come from a spiritual realm, that a spiritual God spoke life into existence. And so the body and the mind come from that.
Mm,
And that a holistic, spirit centric lifestyle is one in which you feed your spirit, reading scripture, praying, worshiping, finding places of peace and quiet where you can meditate and that in our very busy lifestyle and our very social media and entertainment driven lifestyle and our very work oriented lifestyle, it's very hard to find time to just be quiet and to listen and to connect our spirits with God's spirit. And I believe that in doing so, we feed our souls and and it enables us to have a better frame of mind and a better
mm.
um, spirit centric way of living that is promoting to our physical health.
All right. Some chapters of your book explore what it truly means to be human. How was your view of identity and purpose changed over the years, and how does that inform your message?
Yes. So I am a Christian and I do believe the Bible, and I believe that the God of the Bible spoke life into existence, and I believe that he created humans in his image. Now,
Hmm.
some of us may think of that in a physical way, and there may be a physical component to that, but I think primarily it's the spirit man that lives inside of us.
Hmm.
And then we are these like image bearers of God in the world. And but we know that the world has gone astray. We live in a broken, fallen world. And so our goal as humans is to work on getting back to that spirit centric, God focused way of living.
All right. You also mentioned, Kurt, that many people feel like something is missing from their lives, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. What are some early signs that we might be out of alignment in those areas?
So, so many of us, know what it means to feel stressed, to feel anxious, to feel depressed, to feel like we don't have a sense of meaning or purpose. I really love Rick Warren's book, The Purpose Driven Life, that really kind of explores this and kind of helps point us to what it means to be living a God-centric life. Um, but I think that that's really what it is. We have this kind of God-sized void, this God-sized hole within us that we're trying to fill with other things, and it doesn't work, and we end up getting off track. We end up feeling like we're always trying to play catch up. We never feel peaceful enough, rested enough, uplifted enough, because we're not feeding our spirits. And
Right.
so when you're not feeding your spirits, you're going to have anxiety, you're going to have depression, you're going to have a hard time dealing with stress, difficulty sleeping, and uh, a lack of a sense of purpose and direction. And when you bring
Mhm.
it back to God, you bring it back to the reason we were created to have relationship with our Father in heaven, it all comes into alignment.
Right. Our Father in heaven designed us to be uh, worshiping creatures, and
Hmm.
since the fall of man, um, God has been replaced as the object of our worship. It
Hmm.
has been replaced by many other things. And
Yes.
that's not originally the design. It has been altered because we live in a fallen world. And that is so true. When we become the center of our lives, it just it just unravels. We're
Yes.
not supposed to be at the center of our lives. It's supposed to be God. Um,
Right. And I do want to say, right, that as we're promoting this book, I really want to say my goal is not to point people to myself, although I'm trying to get people to read this book, and I really think it's going to be uplifting and encouraging to them, and it
yeah,
will show them a healthier way to live. But I really want to point them to God.
true. Agree. Uh, as a physician, you've seen firsthand how modern life impacts people's well-being. What patterns have you observed that led you to believe change is not only possible but necessary?
Yes. So uh, I've had this feeling all along, even since I went to college when I was doing pre-med. I went
Amen.
to Oral Roberts University, which is a Christian university, but I
Mm,
was really perplexed by this sense of everything being so focused on the natural and not, even though it was a Christian university, but when you're in that lab, when you're in that science class, there's just this energy or this force that wants to pull you away from that relationship with God, and
yeah.
just it's like it's all about the science, it's all about the here and now, it's all about the matter, and you kind of lose the big picture, and you're
Right.
so focused on the details, you start losing kind of that sense of connectivity with the world around you, with other people. And I think we saw that a lot during the pandemic, where everything was so prescriptive. Everything was getting shut down. People were
Right.
losing their connectivity with other people. Everybody got online. People weren't meeting, congregating. And there were scientific explanations for those things. But what
Mm,
we didn't realize was the damage that it causes to someone's spirit and to someone's soul when they lose that connectivity with others. And many people started to feel like they were losing their connectivity with God because they were just being drawn inward. Um, and then they were just looking to social media and to, for answers, and to the media in general for answers, when so much of that can be found more inward, can be found with God. And
mm.
peace is so important. Um, um, it's so important to find that perfect peace, because when we don't have that, everything else starts to fall apart.
Agree. Okay. Without giving away too much, um, what are one or two small but impactful steps readers can begin practicing as they pursue a more abundant life?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is whether or not you feel like you have a relationship with God, or even or questioning whether or not God exists, you just need to start asking. And it doesn't start with asking other people, although that's part of it. It starts with the kind of inner work, the inner questioning, and just saying, God, if you're real, show yourself to me, right?
Right.
And then you begin to pray, and you don't have to do it in any particular prescriptive way. You just, whatever's in your heart, you share that. And then you say, God, I really want to start making changes to improve my life, to become
Mm,
healthier, to be have more functional relationships, to start taking care of my body, to start
right.
having a more productive work life. And as you start to do that, then you start to get a sense of what your motivation develops. And then you can
Mm,
start looking outside and start saying, what are those kind of things that I can do that are the small steps to improve my life? Getting better sleep, right? Starting to eat a bit more healthy, cutting out some of the processed foods, starting to exercise, right? And
right.
and starting to think of what are those productive things that get you out of yourself and start connecting you with others in a way that the time and effort that you use in your life is productive not only for yourself, but to improve the lives of others. And as you do that, your sense of reward in life will improve, and your sense of satisfaction and your overall health and wellness will improve.
Right. Uh, Dr. Bravata, you've worked extensively in addiction medicine. So,
Mhm.
what connections do you see between emotional pain, spiritual disconnection, and the habits that we form?
So, in my experience, so much of addiction comes from hurts that occurred in childhood. These kind of what we call early childhood events, these traumatic events. There's a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. And there's
Mm,
also so many people come from dysfunctional families, and um, their sense of themselves has been tarnished by either things that they've done or things that have been harmful that have been done to them.
mm,
There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame. There's also, if you had parents that were abusive, were not loving as they should be, your sense of that relationship with God, your father, is tarnished by this idea of what a parent is. And so, because of that, your sense of who you are and even your ability to kind of reach out for help is so limited. And so, people start to self medicate in order to try to suppress the pain that they're feeling. And
mm,
they use different types of drugs to help them sleep, to help them have energy, to help them have some
right.
sense of euphoria, because they feel so down, they feel so depressed, they feel so lost. And when they take these drugs, they feel a momentary relief. But after a while, it becomes a vicious cycle, and it no longer provides the relief that they once felt.
The book includes a personal new life declaration. What role do affirmations and intentional choices play in creating lasting change?
Yes. So again, this also comes back to, like I was saying, the types of um, experiences people have in childhood where there's so many negative words that are said about a person or things that they learn to say about themselves. And you really need to break that cycle because those things really do hold you back. I know there's been, there's been books written about the power of positive thinking and all that, but this goes deeper than that. This is words truly have power. When God created the universe, when God created humans, He spoke us into existence. He breathed us into existence. And when we speak, those words do have power. And we are the first people that hear the things that we say. And when we can start to change that confession, to start saying positive things, to start saying what we believe that we are going to become, speaking into existence, we
Mm,
really start to believe it. And as we believe it, we start to walk it out. But if we don't believe it, we don't take the steps we need for change, and we stay in that kind of restricted, boxed in environment that keeps us from becoming who we were meant to be.
all right. In writing this book, how did your your own journey of growth, physical, emotional, and spiritual, intertwined with what you share on the page.
Yes. So when I was about 15 years old, I had sepsis with Staph aureus. It was MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, and at that time it wasn't very well understood,
Yeah.
and it was circulating in my blood, and I almost died. And at the time, I had some interest in healthcare, but it really developed during that time. And I remember my mom praying, "It's like, God, if you could just save him, you can have him." And of course, that was her prayer for all her children. But in that moment, you could just see that she was like, God, I'll let him travel to the ends of the earth, which I ended up doing. If you'll save him. And at that time, I made a decision. I said, Lord, I really do want to follow you, and I'll follow you in the field of healthcare. But that began a journey of my own physical recovery because
Mm,
my body was so wasted by that infection. I
mm,
ended up having, arthritis in multiple joints. I ended up having, all the weeks of antibiotics. I ended up having problems with lactose intolerance and digestive issues, um, and so over the years, I've had to work towards rebuilding my physical body
mm.
and getting my digestive system back in track. And actually, in just this last month, my lactose intolerance, which I've had for over 20 years, has completely resolved.
Wow.
And that came from I do believe it's a miracle. I really do, but
Yeah.
I also believe God showed me the things that I needed to do along the way. And I was not allergic. I was intolerant, and it had to do with the good bacteria in my gut being
Mm,
killed by those antibiotics. And over time, I was able to build that back. But I also believe that there's a miraculous component to that because I haven't heard of many people that have been able to resolve that to the extent that I have. And I thank God for that. But I remember when I wrote the book, I said that I believe this book is going to change your life. It's already changed mine. And that's one
mm.
example of confession where I put it on the paper and I believed that by the time I got this book out there, God was going to do some changes in my life that I hadn't yet experienced. And I'm already seeing that manifest.
All right. As we close, Dr. Bravata, what is one lasting thought or encouragement you'd like to leave with our viewers and listeners? And of course, where can they go to learn more or get a copy of Live Free or Diet?
Yes. So I just want to kind of bring this to a close by saying that Live Free or Diet is really about finding faith, freedom, and abundant life. It's also about breaking the cycle of binging and purging, where we're constantly just caught in this vicious cycle, but never really having the progress and the cures that we're looking for. And so I want to tell you that you can find faith, you can find freedom, you can find health, and you can find recovery from whatever it is that you're struggling with. And I want you to know that there's a real God who loves you and who knows you personally and who wants to have a relationship with you. And I want you to know that abundant life is meant to be yours, not only in this life but in the life to come. And that a God who would give you Jesus would give you anything, and all you need to do is ask, and God will start to show you the things that you need to do to become the body, mind, spirit, holistically perfected person that you were meant to be. And you can find my book at livefreeordietbook.com. You can also find it on Amazon. I'm on all forms of social media under Live Free or Diet. And You can find me on LinkedIn. A quick Google of the book, the title, Live Free or Diet, or if you look up my name, Kurt Bravata, you'll find me. And I really hope to have an opportunity to be of impact in your life. And I hope this book is impactful. Thank you.
Dr. Bravata, it definitely is a pleasure talking to you, having you today on the show. And thank you so much for discussing your book with us. I also want to give a big shout out to our awesome viewers and listeners for joining us for this interview. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on the Author Roundup. I am Ray Walters. Join me next time as we explore the world of supported self publishing, one indie author at a time.